Hi, my name is Peter Granberg. I'm the Pro Audio and Software Product Manager here at Panasonic Connect. Welcome to our webinar, Elevate Your Campus Audio. And I'm here with our friends from Virginia Tech. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Eric Brooks. I am the audio engineer at Virginia Tech with Classroom AV Services.
And I'm Rob Byers. I'm the Director of Classroom AV Services here at Virginia Tech.
Cool. So thanks for having us, guys. Tell me a little bit more about this, wireless system that you just installed. It's like 44 channels or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been using Panasonic projectors and displays for several years now. And when we heard that you were jumping into the pro audio level line, we were interested in giving that a shot. And we did so in one of our more high profile spaces, our Board of Visitors space. This is where our Board of Visitors has the public meetings. So we use those microphones for public address. So anybody who needed to speak within the meeting could come up and do it. The ease of installation and the quality of audio that came from that sparked us to be interested in taking it to our next high profile location. So the new location is for governance purposes and things like that from our upper admin. And the goal there was for everybody in the room to have reinforcement so they could be heard, perfectly clean and clear, as well as everybody on the web call or the live stream or what have you, whatever we needed to do out of that space, they needed the highest level of audio as well. And we found that those Panasonic mics really worked well. Ease of installation, again, the antenna system working with the deck was fantastic. And the experience and the feedback that we've gotten so far has just been really, really spot on. And that really sparked us to our interest in the new ceiling microphone when we heard that it was announced.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Rob said, with the success of these two spaces, we heard the ceiling mic was coming out and we were definitely interested. So we wanted to kind of get our hands on it and try it out. And I mean, from the get-go, it was just a really great microphone. From installation to the process of getting it set up, it was really smooth, and we've been incredibly happy with it in the spaces that we have it so far.
Well, if you guys don't mind, let me tell you a little bit more about our brand new ceiling microphone. So it's got the beamforming array technology, which gives you 4 channels of audio over Dante. You also get the antenna wireless receiver compatibility or integration, so that way you add an additional 2 channels of audio. So that's like used for a teacher or a presenter that needs a standalone mic or lavalier setup, so that way they're not relying solely on the ceiling microphone. You also get native integration with the Panasonic PTZ camera, so that solves the problem of needing an external control processor for other cameras. So all you need is basically the camera and the ceiling microphone to be on the same network. And then lastly, Eric, you mentioned this very briefly, is the free software that's used to control and configure everything.
Yeah, and one thing you forgot to mention is the actual ease of installation.
Yeah. Eric, could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, ease of installation, it really was smooth. I mean, from unboxing to putting in the ceiling, the entire process was maybe 10 minutes. And the way that it fits with its mount bracket system into the 2x2 tile, it looks clean, and really, it went up smooth, and it blends really well with the ceiling. It looks great.
So actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I actually have a piece of our 4-piece bracket design that's actually patent pending. We have this piece here. Again, it's 4 pieces out of 1 piece. And we go from something like this to something like this into the ceiling. So it's a pretty easy install, as you said, 10 minutes or something like that? Yeah. So this is a very nice way of installing everything very simply. If for whatever reason you guys don't want to install it this way, there are other different types of way of mounting it, such as hanging it via safety wire, hanging it via a pole mount, and then we also offer special brackets that come included with the box. So not only do you get this 4-piece patent pending bracket design, you actually get other different brackets to mount it in a different way as well. That's all included.
Good to know.
As I'm talking about this beamforming technology and the ceiling microphone array, this whole section will be covered using the ceiling microphone audio. So a couple things that you guys should know about the ceiling microphone itself as far as the audio goes. Again, like I mentioned, it's got 4 channels of audio, all outputted via Dante. The additional settings that you also get, you get dynamic settings, you get priority settings, you get static settings, and you get exclusion settings. Eric, could you tell me a little bit more about how you set that up in that software?
Yeah, sure. When it comes to classrooms on a campus, naturally, they need to be very versatile. Every professor has a different modality in which they would like to teach, how they would like to address their class, whether it's hybrid or in person. So with the exclusion zones, we can basically filter out exterior noises such as busy hallways, doors shutting, HVAC systems, a wide array of intrusive noises on a college campus. And that really helps us own in on a dynamic zone that we can set over top of the students so that those students can be heard on the far end clearly to the students who maybe aren't in the class and vice versa. And also we can set a priority zone for the professor. So when they walk back and forth in the front of the room, we can stretch that area to be exactly where they can walk and address their students. And it's a very clean transition of audio from students in the dynamic zone to the professor in the priority zone. So really, we've been able to kind of dial that into classrooms and mold it to the space, really specific to the use case of the space itself.
Yeah. So that's actually really cool. The other thing that is also included with the ceiling microphone is not only those areas, but there's also audio DSP that's built into that. So if you really wanted to dig in deep, you can kind of go into those settings and explore a little more and fine tune and tweak things as well. So the next thing that I'd like to talk about, and I briefly mentioned, is the wireless antenna receiver. So I actually have that here with me. And I have this unit here, and you guys also actually have this here as well. Could you tell me a little bit more about this unit?
Yeah, sure. What we really like about the unit itself is, first of all, the ease of installation. It ties directly into the ceiling mic itself over one Cat5 connection.
Yeah.
And that's really a great feature.
Tremendous time saver.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saves a lot of time. And what we really like also, it operates in the DECT system, and it helps manage the RF for us. So in a university full of classrooms, we're not trying to find RF space and pigeonhole every single classroom into a frequency range.
Yeah.
The DECT system really helps us take that to the next level, and it reduces our installation and setup time overall by simply more or less plug and play.
Yeah, so something that you had mentioned previously about the priority areas. So this is something that is a really example to use as an optional accessory. You don't need to use it. But if you were to use the antenna receiver, say for example in that priority area, it might be sometimes very difficult to get the ceiling microphone audio to pick up from that priority area based off of how wide the space is. So what we did was we designed this in that sense where we would have to use this with the ceiling mic, but what that allows this system to do is basically give someone a dedicated audio channel. So like this guy has 2 channels of audio, so you can have a teacher or presenter having a standalone lavalier or a standalone handheld. So that way they have that dedicated audio, and that's not audio coming from just the ceiling mic itself. Because we found in our research that based off of just installing 1 ceiling mic or 2 ceiling microphones, you might have a teacher or presenter, and on the far end, it's really hard to hear, and some students can't really hear over Zoom or over Teams. And we found out like, oh, well, maybe a teacher or the presenter needs to have their own dedicated audio. So that's kind of why we came up with this solution here. So that way you have the ceiling mic, 4 channels of audio covering the classroom. And then if you really needed that extra step, we have this 2-channel antenna receiver to give that dedicated channel of audio to the teacher or the presenter.
Right. I mean, the 30 by 30 area that the microphone covers will help you out in most classroom scenarios. But sometimes, in most classrooms, you have a gap there between the first student and the instructor. And that's where that really comes into play. So you can walk around with a lapel or a handheld and maneuver throughout that space and guarantee yourself to be heard. So that's a really nice feature.
Yeah. So another thing that I like to tell you guys about the ceiling microphone is its native integration with the PTZ cameras, the Panasonic PTZ cameras. So a lot of the times, I know a lot of you guys have, an external control processor based off of different camera manufacturers. Sometimes it's a little difficult to integrate, but sometimes not so bad. But we've tried to make that process as simple as possible. So because everything is Panasonic within the Panasonic ecosystem, we basically created a way where you can have a Panasonic PTZ camera and a Panasonic ceiling mic. As long as they're on the same network, they're able to talk to one another in order to have camera presets. So say, for example, you have 2 presets, right, in a classroom. You have a teacher presenting, so you have 1 camera facing the teacher, and then you have the second preset, say like a wide shot of just the audience or the classroom, right? So the beauty behind this, again, is the fact that you can easily set that up within the software. You don't need that extra control processor, so that just makes the integration very simple and easy. And lastly, I'd like to mention that I know I only said you have 2 presets, but you can actually have up to 16 presets for camera integration.
Sounds perfect for like a boardroom or conference room or something along those lines where you're hitting people all around, and for a classroom as well. We'll have to give that a shot at some point.
Yeah, I'd love that. And then the last thing that I'd like to mention for this webinar is, again, it's been kind of sprinkled out a little bit here and there. The free software, Microphone Configuration Center. We like to call it MicCC for short. Eric, can you tell me a little bit more about how you use that software, or if you have any like favorite features or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the biggest takeaways is a lot of peripherals under one hood, more or less. You're able to access the ceiling mic. You can access the antenna. You can access the wireless handheld, lapel mic, and PTZ camera, all in one software. With the plug and play ease of the software, I mean, really, it doesn't take much time at all to get your room up and running. Like I mentioned earlier, we are sometimes under time constraints. Most companies, higher education universities are. So when you can get into the software, learn it pretty quickly, get into a room, install it, and have everything up and running in a brief amount of time, it truly is a benefit. So with the software itself, I mean, really my favorite feature would be, like I said, keeping everything in all the peripherals under one hood, but being able to dial in and make those adjustments if you need to. Everything is pretty much plug and play, but with, let's say, the ceiling microphone, you can add those exclusion zones, you can see everything really logically in an easy to view area and design your room based on the needs of the space. And then, like I said, transition over to your microphones, your handheld and lapel, make adjustments there if necessary. Usually everything's pretty plug and play and easy to use. We honestly haven't found that we needed to make many adjustments to it.
That's great.
But overall, it's really great software to use and extremely user-friendly.
Nice.
And while I personally haven't used the software, that's his job. I think the success of that initial installation in that Board of Visitors room, his experience with the software at that point in time, really was a sparking point for the rest of this experience, right? He came out of that experience with a really positive attitude towards the software, towards the product. It sounded great, that's number one, right?
Right, it's audio.
But the setup of it is so critical, especially when we're doing things in-house like we typically do. Most of the integration that we do these days is in-house unless it's a large facility, like a whole building. And in that regard, the software really paid dividends.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any last closing words about anything you'd like to touch base on with Panasonic Audio at all?
I mean, I'd say ultimately we're very pleased with where Panasonic is heading. Like Rob had mentioned earlier, we took a initial gamble, if you will, with our 2-mic system for our Board of Visitors. That went really well, and that scaled very rapidly to the 44-mic system, which was an incredibly smooth process. We were, like anything, it doesn't matter what brand it is, you're a little hesitant about 44 mics being on in one space. But really, it went really smooth overall. And we are incredibly happy with the ceiling mic. We plan to roll that out to multiple spaces. The faculty, staff, and other technicians who have to use these rooms, they're very happy with it as well. Overall, it really is just, it sounds great in a world of hybrid audio, hybrid meetings. It's critical, the audio quality.
That's actually something that we haven't mentioned at all, is the end user. The end user, in regards to this microphone, it's completely seamless. They don't recognize that it exists. If they're really looking hard for it, they'll see it, because it blends in with that 2x2 tile dynamic. But, it to them, it just works. And that's the most important thing.
Right.
Their user experience means we don't get phone calls.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again for having us here. I appreciate your time, Eric and Rob. It's been lovely chatting with you. Everyone in the audience, thank you everyone for attending our webinar. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to check out our website. But otherwise, I'll see you in the question and answer session.